today we've got Swavab and Forever on the call.
I'm really excited to talk on the radio today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Forever. I'm Youth Ambassador at Attentive. I've been with Attentive for about 7 months, and I'm really, really excited to be talking to you guys on the radio today.
That's great. Thank you for coming on the show. So the first half will be about technology. So to start off, how do you feel technology has changed since you were younger? So let's start with Swabe.
So I feel like obviously it's become much more advanced, but the role it plays in our life has become a lot larger as well. I feel the impact technology had on me when I was younger was a lot less than it does now. I use technology for a lot of things, especially for education. So take, for example, my Chromebook. I use that day in, day out in school. Whereas when I was younger, I wouldn't usually use that. But I know things like iPads and tablets are used more in primary school nowadays. So I feel like the impact technology plays with schools has become much more prominent.
Yeah, I agree. Forever, what's your opinion?
I think definitely the role of technology has changed quite massively from when I was younger. Not saying that I'm that old, I'm just saying that we have become a lot more dependent. So I agree with Stravab on that. And that's because technology has helped us accomplish so many great feats. I mean, take for instance, we were locked down for COVID-19, and many of the things that we do now, we did online. And I think as a result of that, our dependency on technology and on the internet has increased massively. Really, that's it. It's almost like today, even when you want to pay for a bus ticket, you have to use technology. One way or another, technology has to be used. We've become so dependent on it. That's a good thing and a bad thing. But the role of technology in today's world is definitely a lot larger than it was when I was, 5 years old.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's progressing much rather rapidly. Would you say that it's a bad thing or a good thing at the rate that it's progressing? I'm gonna go to Swavab first.
So I think it's quite controversial. I think if you look at it objectively, it can be quite good because the more we progress technology, the more feats we can accomplish, just as Forever said. So the more we invent, the more we can come up with and resolve issues in our world. So for example, technology evolving in healthcare helps us create vaccines. Going back to COVID, if we didn't have the new technology that we do nowadays, it would have practically been impossible to create vaccines. But there's also the downside that if technology isn't regulated well, it can obviously be used in the wrong hands. And so I think with any new innovation, I think like a lot of regulation needs to be put in place and needs to be looked over very thoroughly. Because if used incorrectly, it could do us more harm than good. And I think there's definitely been examples of that as well. So like due to a lack of internet safety taught to young children, they're much more impressionable to harmful trends online. I think that I taught as much when I was younger. Obviously, I think it's grown in importance now, but back in primary school, I remember it wasn't something that was taught that much or emphasized that much. So I think that's one way it's been mishandled and technology has been mistreated.
I think there's definitely a sense of duality with technology because there can be some scenarios where it can lead to harmful situations occurring. But I think certain aspects can be really good. For example, I've seen like tablets that are made more accessible to people with, for example, learning difficulties. And I think that's a really great step in making things more inclusive. So Forever, what's your opinion?
I completely agree with you, Verminor, and Swavab as well. In as much as we can misuse it, technology has some serious advantages. Take, for instance, amputees who need prosthetics. Those are created most of the time with machine learning and technology. Those are made to fit them in such a way that they're not uncomfortable and they can go about their normal lives without being secluded, without, being afraid of how other people may perceive them. That's one massive thing. Additionally, it's easier to do research. I can literally just pull out my phone and go look for something, whereas before it would take so long. I'd have to go through textbooks and things like that. So it has that benefit, but at the same time, it's draining our I feel like it drains people's social skills. It makes them less willing to meet people up in person and talk to them and start a conversation, as we would if technology wasn't that big of a thing. But because it is, obviously, people would much rather text you than call you, or text you than even go see you in person. That's one thing. So I feel like our social skills have definitely taken a massive hit because of technology. But in all things, technology has been incredibly beneficial. Even though with every good thing, there's always that 1%. If 99% uses it properly, there's always that 1% that's going to mess it up for everyone, as we like to say. There's always that 1% of people who would like to take advantage of other people through social media and through the internet. But I feel like, just like Swavab said, with things like social media, we do need regulations. Not incredibly strict ones, but ones that make sure that we know right from wrong and we stay away from doing the wrong things and keep ourselves safe on the internet.
Yeah, 100% agree with what you're saying there, especially with internet safety. It's so important nowadays. I feel like everyone is on the internet, so there's more and more need of having that safeguarding and that safety on those platforms. Moving on, tying up to technology and the internet, we know that AI, which is artificial intelligence, is also growing massively with stuff like ChatGPT, or on there's a built-in AI on Snapchat, I think, as well.
Oh yeah.
It's called like My AI, I think. So in terms of that side of technology, in terms of AI, how do you think AI will benefit the world in the years to come? Again, starting with Swabab.
So I think it can be used for a really big, like a wide range of things, which is like one of AI's greatest advantages. You can really apply it to anything. So whether it be art, or whether it be education, or I don't know, whether it be something to do with manufacturing, AI can really be applied everywhere. And it really affects us all one way or another. I think one of the greatest ways it would definitely benefit us is by creating smarter AI. We can use AI to help us resolve some issues we may have today. So, for example, if we have, I don't know, a large data set of statistics about everyone in the population, using AI, we can use AI to interpret that data differently and gain answers from that. So I think the way we apply AI is how we benefit from it. How we benefit from it is really down to us and how we use it. If we use it to help us find answers to complex issues that we have, I think that's one of the greatest benefits we can use it for. So even for mathematical problems that would normally take our brains years to solve, we can use AI, computers, and algorithms to really simplify it down. So, like, for example, a calculator, even though it's not AI, it's an example of where a computer is able to execute really complex questions really quickly. And so AI can do the same, but on a much greater scale. So that's how I think it could improve the world.
100%. Forever, what do you think?
I think that AI has its benefits because AI is literally, you feed it a prompt and then it basically does what you've asked it to do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But because people will become too dependent on AI, we need to be careful in terms of personal information and what we feed and what we feed artificial intelligence. There's no doubting that AI has benefits itself. Just like Swavab said, it can be used to solve complex mathematical equations, but we should not become over-dependent or over-reliant on it such that we can't do these things ourselves. Using AI is the problem. Just like using Google. Using Google can never be the problem. The problem is how dependent on you are on it. Like, how dependent are you on Google? It's not, we don't want a situation where you literally can't function without it. Whatever you do, you have to consult it. That's not a healthy relationship to have to build with something that doesn't really have a consciousness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But obviously we can use it in different aspects and different fields to explain complex things. If you have, for instance, like an essay, or for people who study law, if you have like a case study and it's really, really long and you don't think you can read through it, you can definitely ask AI paraphrase or summarize, so it's easy for you to get an overview or a concept of it before you start answering a question. So I feel like in cases like this, AI is super important and it can be used for a vast majority of things. Now, the key thing is for us to understand that it's not like we can't do these things ourselves. It's simply that it's going to take us so much time, and AI makes it faster. So we shouldn't be too dependent because we can definitely do these things ourselves.
Those are some really interesting points on AI. I think it's definitely very fascinating, this topic, and both of your points were really impressive on just how much knowledge we have of AI, where we might not think it's used in so many different things, but it is. So moving on from that, we we know that from COVID-19, remote working and remote learning has increased a lot. What do you think the pros and cons of remote working are? So let's start with Suave.
I think there's very many good reasons why remote working has become very popular for both employers and employees. I think one of the most immediate problems it resolves is the issue of traveling and commuting. Commuting.
Yeah.
So if you take an hour to drive to work, that would obviously come at the cost of fuel. Or even if you take public transport, which we know can be expensive, it comes as a cost. And at the end of the day, it would be cheaper to work from home. So remote working allows for people for less traveling, so that reduces time and spends, which means more time for working, therefore increasing productivity. The other thing is that it also, because you don't have to spend hours, computing and traveling, it also allows for a more flexible schedule. So you can choose when to wake up, whether you have to wake up later or earlier, when to have your breakfast, how to organize the other things in your day, if you want to go to the gym or meet friends. I think it allows for much more leeway in terms of what you can and can't do. And leading on to that as well, it gives a greater sense of independence to the worker. And we all having that autonomy gives you the feel that you're in control of your life, and particularly when you balance your work-life schedule. So I can see why it's incredibly popular for a lot of people and it's preferred.
100%. Forever, do you have any opinions on this?
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to pros and cons, there are a lot on each side. So for, let's say, remote work, the pros are it's flexible. It's incredibly flexible. People have been looking for flexible work for ages, and it's finally here. That's one thing. Second thing is that it gives you a great work-life balance, which so many people struggle with. So many people struggle to balance between work and their personal life, so it makes that possible. But then the cons are, for instance, if you are into remote work, let's say you're a data entry expert. I don't know too many examples of remote jobs, but if you're into that, then there's not much movement on your behalf. It has a health impact as well, because you're not walking around, you're not going to pick stuff from there, or you're not taking stairs, you're not doing anything. You're just sitting in one place, and it can genuinely affect you over time. Not saying that if you sit in one spot for 12 hours, anything's going to happen to you. I'm just saying that over time, because it's work, over time, these things do build up to become a massive health issue and health challenge. Then when it comes to learning, I feel like remote learning or learning from home, it has severe impact on someone's social skills. It makes them unable to speak in public. It makes them feel, might even make them feel inferior, make them feel like their views and their standpoints are not valid just because they're not used to physically seeing people there. It's one thing to be able to answer questions online and be proactive online, and then it's a completely different thing if you actually have to see someone and meet them, and you have to learn how to read body language, you have to learn how to you have to maintain eye contact. Things like that are things that are not practiced well enough online, if that makes too much sense.
Yeah,
but those are mainly the cons. The pros are flexibility, all-round flexibility. I can literally log on to my school website right now, like literally right now. How fascinating is that? I don't have to walk too far. I can check my timetable, check my classes, I can do my homework. It's really flexible, but then overusing it such that that's the only form of learning you have will affect your social life. I think that's why I'm such a massive advocate for hybrid learning. Hybrid learning is when they use both online and offline learning to give you the best experience. I think genuinely that's the best. But on each side, there's pros and cons, and I don't really want to go into what outweighs what.
Yeah, 100%. That absolutely makes sense. And speaking of using, hybrid or different methods, where do you think Can you think of any situations where virtual reality or technology or AI isn't being used but can be used? So are there any areas of society that could be used in AI? Sabab?
So I'm not too well versed in knowing where exactly VR is used and what it's used for. But in my opinion, I think aside from using it as entertainment, which seems like its main appeal and what it's sold to the public for, I think using AI, not AI, using virtual reality for things like work experience, particularly if you're maybe, I don't know, applying to be a surgeon or you're learning something in healthcare, trying and practicing in those kind of roles takes a lot of practice and knowing what will happen in the real world. So simulating that through technology and practicing in a digital sort of way makes it a safe way to learn while also making sure that you get the most out of it.
Yeah.
It could also be, say, if you are stuck at home for whatever reason and you can't leave, I think VR is sort of a good way to interact as well with the outside world. If I don't know, thinking of other examples, like say for education as well, if you're learning about like geography or a particular mountain or something specific like that, using VR, you can sort of simulate what this would look like in real life. And for many people who are visual learners, that would benefit them a lot more than simply reading off a piece of paper. Yeah. So sort of using it in a way that can engage with people really helps in a wide range of reasons. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, education, healthcare. So primarily, I think it could really help the work experience.
Yeah, those are some good points as well. I didn't think of using virtual reality in terms of work experience. That's a good point. Forever, any opinions?
Yeah, really liked Swavab's thinking there. It's really intuitive because I'm a med student, using virtual reality to simulate all these, because not everyone is comfortable using a cadaver. Now, a cadaver is like a dead body that's been donated to science, and med students can practice on it. Not everyone's comfortable doing that. Some people would like to at least have a little bit more practice, like a disclaimer before they actually start work on a cadaver. That's an amazing example. But then another example is for people who wish to learn machine language itself. So people who are involved in IT. I feel like AI can be very useful because it will teach and simplify things down for you. I know it's something that's already widely used, but I feel like it's something that we can invest on or people can invest on a lot more. Like, just imagine an app where it's completely AI. It's kind of like Snap AI, but it helps you in terms of simplifying things down to literally layman terms where everyone can understand it and giving you applications for these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the education side of it, I know of like you've mentioned the for med students. I know that surgeons use simulators sometimes to practice, and also sometimes to carry out the actual surgery, where they use AI to, for example, perform certain steps. I also know about like pilots use AI or virtual reality to simulate like practice of flying the vehicle beforehand.
Flights.
100%. I totally agree with what you guys have been saying, and so many good views and so many points have been raised. So very interesting to talk about these different topics because it's something that's always increasing in our society nowadays. So it was great to have you guys on this first half of the show, and I hope you have a good evening. And for anyone listening, if you're listening out there on the other side, we'll be back in a couple of minutes after the break.